Russell Wilson has been traded to the Denver Broncos. Tom Pelissero reports that there is a deal in principle to send 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. In exchange for...
All right, back now with you on Total Access with breaking news out of Green Bay. We go straight to Tom Pelissero on the details of what's going on with Devontae Adams, who looks like the Raiders are acquiring him from the Packers. All right.
Hello, and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is RichiRichEh of the MHRT Network, and to my right is the one and only Coach Defense from the Locked Down Defense podcast. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good brother. How you doing?
The Jersey show for Raiders week for the Chargers. It was duly noted. And Alex from Airhead Attic, how are you doing, Mr. Gibbons?
I don't need to do a Jersey show, but just need to represent the number one seed in the AFC right now. So doing great.
That's fair.
Well, you've earned it so far, so you got to basically just say okay. It is what it is.
Pretty much.
We're just right in the same time loop, regardless of what happened in the off season. So,
yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, you may be noticing that there is a pirate missing from said show. Yeah. Captain will be joining us.
Who's Steve the Pirate?
well
a pirate guy in our channel.
Steve the Pirate's the after hours. But
Gar.
But we did not have Captain walk the plank. He will be with us shortly. And we will get right into all things Raiders as soon as Captain joins us. I did want to thank both of our 3-point stance coming up later in the show, our guests. A special shout out goes to Engraven Vids, who just cracked 60,000 subs on his channel. If we can all give him a round of applause for that massive milestone. Thank you. And he has been a long-time friend of the MHRT Network and has given us his insight on his Baltimore Ravens anytime we have reached out to him. And this week is no exception. And then, of course, we have Houday Baby from the Bengals, which Alex is going to be speaking to his 3 points for the Chiefs later on in the pod. I really do think that's going to be one heck of a game between those two teams, but we will jump into that a little bit later. First and foremost, Coach, I'm going to throw it over to you to talk about your Chargers in their game this past week and talk about the good, the bad, and perhaps the ugly if you want to get into it.
Okay. Demon Child, appreciate that. All LA all day, baby. We're all LA here, man. Appreciate you. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I want to, belabor the negative because we did win, obviously. But, some things That's still concerning me from a team perspective. Now, at this point in the season, when you talk coaching, right? You always feel like if you have things to work on, you have a tendency and a propensity to get better, right? You have the ability to get better. You haven't plateaued. You haven't hit that mark where you feel like you've hit your ceiling, and it's not going to get any better from here, right? So I feel like the Chargers, especially with the injuries and people coming back, back and forth about off of injury, we're slowly getting guys back here and there, just adding a piece here, adding a piece there. King having 2 solid weeks of playing receiver for us and having a bigger workload this week was a better sense of accomplishment as far as the offense is concerned. It flowed a little bit better. Still not running the ball well. I'm not sure exactly what is going on there. Not even making a whole lot of effort to run the ball at this point. It's
Herbert leading rusher, baby, dual threat.
What's that? Yeah,
said Herbert leading rusher, dual threat.
Right. What are we? The Bills? Josh
yeah,
Allen?
you got Josh Allen now, man.
Exactly. So that's a concern. But again, you always can say, no matter what, winning is winning, right?
He's not wrong.
So yeah, that definitely felt like what did he say about Cap? I was in no show. Oh, leaves early. That's funny. Yeah. So
Ziegler was the one that said it. I mean, it just has some extra oomph when
that
was us.
Hands off with that one. But I didn't like the idea that we got down early. That made me nervous because we're down 10-0 early, and we've done that several times this year. So that was concerning. It's almost like they don't really get going until they face adversity, which is good and bad. Like, you like the fact that they respond to adversity and they get going, but when you don't have to, when I don't have to struggle to get where I need to get to, and if it could be a smooth sail, you would like to do that every now and then. So I would like to see one game. I saw a tweet today. It was interesting. He said, name a game this year where the Chargers hadn't give you the deep, dark anxiety about the game. Like, it's always been close. Good or bad. Like, it's always been a situation where they always give you deep, dark anxiety. It's never been the game is over by the second quarter or the third quarter and we can cruise. No. Always nail biters.
Well, to your point, I feel like, like you said, they like to always have adversity. And so it's either they get behind early, you got to crawl back, or get up early, and then for whatever reason,
give up the lead.
Breaks, and then make it a game at the end,
Right.
There's no in between.
Right. I just got to live for the excitement. It's the thrill. It's almost like racing, like drag racing. I got to live for that 10 seconds of fun.
It's Hollywood, baby. So I
guess so. So we got to do the Fast and Furious mantra, right?
Yeah.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time. That's how Justin Herbert and Brandon Staley operate, right? That's Dom and Paul Walker. They live their life
for that moment where the other team hits the nos and they could say, "Too soon, Junior."
There you go. That's the Cardinals' last score. It was like, "Too soon, Junior."
Captain's PA has now posted in the chat.
Nice.
He'll be here in 5 minutes.
You made it when you got people they can represent you in the chat while you're away. See,
I
would be like that when I grow up. I would be like that guy when I grow up.
He was asking for his Raiders representation. It's in the chat, man.
That's it. When your rep can tell you, hey, he'll be on in 5 minutes. Don't worry, guys. BZ, I need to find a representation for the Chargers, man. Y'all got anybody that's looking to file application, man? Let me know. I need somebody on the team, man. But yeah. Overall, man, like I said, I think the game, it was still issues with stopping the run. James Conner had a day. It was a lot of business decisions made by quarterbacks trying to tackle this guy. He's a big body. So that's an issue. Especially when we're seeing what Josh Jacobs has done to defenses in the past several weeks. Now this cat didn't practice all week last week and went off for 300 total yards in from scrimmage or something like that.
Yeah, 303 yards from scrimmage. and he had what may have been the best run I think I've ever seen to win in overtime, or at least one of them.
I listened.
I
watched it all. I couldn't believe it.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, it's a divisional opponent, but you have to give absolute credit where credit is due. That was at a.
Yeah, it was. I agree with you, man. It definitely was. When he hit that second level, when he hit the linebacker level, I was like, he's gone. I said, yeah, he's gone. That's good. Think about it like this: we get a hit for the steam and the size he is. Nobody gonna tackle that guy. Nobody's tackling that guy, and he has good speed for his size. You have to give him credit for that as well. He's not slow. It's much like that Derrick Henry mantra. They think that Derrick Henry just is masked man and he's slow.
No, he's just so big he looks slow. But
there you go.
Really, he's fast.
There you go.
It's like
there you go.
Strides.
Exactly. DZ, I can always appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, man. But yeah, overall, I mean, again, like I said, I can't complain about the win. You know, I would like to see our defense play a little bit better, a little more aggressive against the run, especially our linebackers coming down here more. But I did like how offense looked in the second quarter on. We did start slow in the first quarter, but I did like how they looked in the second quarter on. Justin Herbert, you know, figuring things out as far as buying himself more time to be able to throw the ball. You know, because our pass protection, especially when Corey Linsley went out the game with a concussion, it's like the train is never late when the protection gets bad when Corey Linsley goes out, right? It always seems to be an issue with protections and schemes, and they blitz us more. I think the Cardinals like the highest percentage blitzing team in the league. So they just constantly came after us, and at some points they got to Justin quickly, and he couldn't get the ball off. So, you know, he made some adjustments. They made some adjustments on the sideline that allowed him to buy more time to get the ball down the field and complete catches in the last quarter and a half. So, you know, overall, it was a good performance. It's a great win to build on and going into the Raiders week. So I was overall okay and serene with it. Now, mind you, you know, and having a win with the team and then having nothing but losses in fantasy is bittersweet. But you know, you take what you can get,
I
right?
feel that, man. I lost across the board in 5 leagues.
I won one game. I won one league. That's it.
Right there, man.
That's it. That's it. So the overall, man, like I said, for the Chargers perspective, I'm definitely happy with it, and it was a good momentum builder going into Raiders week.
Fantastic. So, Alex, your Chiefs, and don't worry, we're going to have a slightly elongated segment, I think, on my Broncos to discuss.
Well, we have to. I mean,
to discuss the dumpster fire that it actually is.
To discuss you guys being one win away from securing the AFC, right? I mean, that's where you were supposed to be this year.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but the the Chiefs put on a solid performance against the perennial Super Bowl defending champs, the Rams. Very respectable squad. But obviously I had to say all that because they were very beat up from where they were at the start of the year. I mean, Bryce Perkins, the third string QB, was out there, so kind of assumed it was a Chiefs victory from the start. And I mean, never really was any sign that they were going to lose. So, just overall decent showing. I think you saw, or at least it appeared to me, that they probably started prepping for Cincinnati a little earlier than they would if it was a better team, because I didn't get the sense that they were it kind of seemed like they were playing past the Rams a little bit. And maybe part of that too is the fact that didn't have Tony out there, had some guys banged up. Joe Tooney, the left guard, one of the best guards in the league, didn't play. But I also think he didn't play because of the status of the Rams. I think if it was a better team, like he's playing. So, it was a decent outing. There wasn't anything, overly crazy that happened. Like, defense looked pretty good, but third string QB and a team with dog water offensive line and running game. So kind of would hope they would look good. But, and secondary played well. I mean, team played well overall, but didn't play a very highly touted squad at this point of the year. So, kind of what Coach said, I think it was a good building block for them to progress into Cincinnati, this week, and what's going to be, probably biggest game of the season for them up to this point, maybe outside of playing Buffalo. So, we'll see what happens, but kind of that Rams game, just, it wasn't a quarter mile at a time. That was a 10-second car. It was just out of there. So, kind of just flew over. I feel like, at least me watching it, it was just kind of there. But, solid win either way. Like I said, 9-2 Chiefs, number one team in the AFC. So still rolling, baby.
What I didn't like, the fact that y'all at the very last part of it covered the spread. That's what I didn't like.
That's how it works, man. That's just how it goes.
It was 15.5 and y'all went to 16. Like, wow.
I swear, I think Reed does that. I mean, I think he knows what's going on.
Yeah.
If you'll notice, I actually called that the Chiefs would cover the spread.
You did.
I did. That's permanently engraved online. Where
It
I
is.
at your show I called it. They're covering the
You
spread.
did. That's what I remember it. The moment you said that, I was like, damn it, he did. Sure did. 'Cause I was scared of that 15. I was like, no way. But yeah.
No, I had it on good
Authority.
solid authority.
Uh-huh.
That I should have bet that. I did not, but I should have bet that.
True.
But I got some solid intel from my Rams contacts,
Wow.
and they're like, oh yeah, you're gonna want to, just go ahead and
go all in. Go all in.
Just take that one.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
I think it's really interesting that what we're seeing from the Chiefs this year, they're showing more diversity in how they're winning games, and
Definitely.
I actually think that they're going to need to do that as Patrick Mahomes ages.
Yeah.
If I'm just going to be honest. So I think that this is a very smart move by Andy Reid to move in this direction. And I also think that this is why you've seen mixed results in the later part of the playoffs from the Chiefs in years past, because they've typically relied on kind of what works typically in the early part of the season, and they try to do the same thing in the later part of the season. And I mean, you just can't do that. You can't play the same type of, hero ball in the winter months as you can in the fall.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't work.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But yeah, I mean, every game it's been crazy when you go look at the stat line after, just how many receivers had how many different targets, went to different guys. Like, it's always like a novel of how many receptions were out there, because they're just constantly spreading the ball, which, like I said, the beginning of the year was what they're going to need to do to still be successful. And I think getting rid of Tyreek kind of just opened the door for them to have to do that. So things are looking good right now. We'll just
I think that's out of necessity. But I think, again, this is where you have to, it's almost infuriating watching it as an opponent, but it's almost like your GM went into it with a bit of a plan.
Yeah. Well, you would think so.
Right. Because, he basically, looking back now, and you see how everything was mapped out and planned out, they polished Tyreek. They got him to a point where they're able to kind of bring him back, and they were then able to get him to a point where he was okay leaving. And it was in the best interest of both Tyreek to get his big payday, and in the Chiefs to simply say, hey, we want the draft capital, because we're going to want to rebuild out to get younger guys to fill out spots, because Mahomes' contract is going to start taking more and more of the cap space, and we want to remain competitive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what like you said, they had a plan. I think they clearly sat down, after the first Super Bowl and said, obviously we have a good nucleus here, but we're not gonna be able to keep them all, and did an assessment of what part of that they'd be willing to move on from. And I mean,
right.
I think it's pretty evident Mahomes. Yeah. I mean, you're not moving on from Mahomes, but between like re-signing Kelsey or Hill, I mean, I think it's pretty evident that Kelsey is, he makes that system go. So,
well, he's that big, tall body that can still get open, and he's able to get away with. He is able to get away with a little bit more than some other tight ends in terms of, we'll say, being handsy. I think is a fair way of putting it. And Edward,
so nobody's going to bring it up. Nobody's going to bring it up.
What?
That we need to have a moment of silence for Jalen Ramsey's coverage skills and his ankles. Did you see Kelsey put him in an absolute blender on that first touchdown?
Oh yeah.
He was covering him inside. He covered him man to man straight up. He didn't give him a leverage of inside or outside. He covered him straight up, and Kelsey put him in an absolute blender.
Yeah, that's just what he does. I mean, literally, people want to say he's handsy. Like, honestly, he's not that handsy. He's just like super shifty in running his routes, and he like times them perfect. I mean, because they do a lot of like crossing routes with the other guys, like indirectly but directly, cutting, kind of getting Kelsey open for a brief second. And it's like crazy to just how perfect and precise he times those to cut him off. And it's like he doesn't do anything and he's wide open. But, dude's just a one-of-a-kind tight end, honestly. I mean,
well, the only other tight end that I'd say still has him beat is Gronkowski. I
don't know about that, man.
I hear that a lot. And why doesn't anybody say the name Tony Gonzalez when they bring up all-time great tight end?
Because he's Tony Gonzalez.
Because he's done. Nah. He did KC dirty, so we don't care about him anymore.
No. Okay, well, no. I actually just don't think that Tony Gonzalez is as good as, or let's just put it this way, he was not as dominant as Gronkowski.
No, I don't know. He was pretty beast.
The
thing is, though, Tony Gonzalez opened the door, and then it was after that you had Gates.
No. You're a lawyer. I chose my words carefully. I expect that the precision in my language at least be understood what I said. I said he wasn't as dominant as Gronkowski. I never said that Tony was not dominant. And just in my opinion,
I know
Gronk was
my pretty dominant was to say I question if he was not as dominant as Gronkowski.
Yeah, I just don't think he was, because Gonzalez had moments where he was outright just locked out of games. And on top of that, the other part of a tight end is blocking, and Gonzalez sucked at blocking. Gronkowski was like having another lineman on the field.
But that's the difference in culture or era, because the tight ends of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s were straight up receivers.
Yeah, they were.
Your Tony Gonzalez,
Shannon Sharp,
Antonio Gates. They weren't blocking tight ends.
Yeah.
At the advent of the George Kittle, the Kelsey, the Gronkowskis were dual threat, solid, good run blocking tight ends and exceptional pass catchers. On top of the fact that Gronkowski, and for all intents and purposes, was a genetic freak of a tight end. I mean, 6'7", 260 pounds, they can run. I mean, what you gonna do with that?
No, but that's my point.
Skills and physical skills alone is a nightmare. So that's what made him good. I mean, I felt like if he was the same height and same size as Gonzalez, he wouldn't have been as good. I mean, let's just be honest. If you want to equate the two. But I think his physical presence made him the dominant force that he is.
Gronk reached over the head of multiple defensive backs and just grabbed the ball.
Well, he was juiced out, dude. Come on.
Oh, there we
go. He was on Percocets and stuff. I mean,
but Edward, I just wanted to say, I heard rumors that he fumbled the pen when he tried to sign the contract.
Ooh.
I mean, maybe it's just me.
That was kind of a weird signing, in my opinion. But Anthony, to answer your question real quick, he didn't really do KC dirty. I'm just being salty. I mean, they traded him to Atlanta out of respect for him, because at the time KC was pretty ass. So, tried to get him into the playoffs. But like one time after that, he made a comment about how he loves Atlanta or something. So KC Twitter just went berserk. But he didn't do KC dirty. I was just saying that.
Oh, okay.
No, that's true. But I'm gonna jump into, or let's all jump into, and the chat has already started in on my Denver Broncos.
You gotta just do this for him.
Yeah. So, wow.
Did not expect them to lose to the Panthers. That's all I'm going to say.
A Sam Darnold-led Panthers.
Yeah. I mean, Baker Mayfield, maybe. He got that dog in him, but Darnold?
Really?
No.
Wow.
I'm not going to lie. I actually called it.
Dog in him.
I was on another pod, and I actually said, like, the Broncos aren't beating the Panthers.
Wow.
And everyone was like, "Oh no, they're gonna win. They're gonna win." It's like, nope.
I thought defense alone was going to get y'all a victory. I mean, my goodness.
No, because the problem that I had was that I knew that the offensive line is just not good, and the Panthers have a very good D line.
Brian Burns.
They have a very good.
I will say, Brian Burns, most savage sack celebration of the year. Did you guys see when he got Russell and did what he did in the middle of the field?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
that was so savage.
That was savage. Yeah, but between Derek Brown, Gross Matos, and Burns, yeah, they got a solid D line.
Yeah.
Oh, they got Ioannidis now too. I forgot we took Ioannidis from Commanders. So yeah, they got a solid front four. Yeah, for
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, Burns
They
had
do,
two.
and then even some of the rotational guys are maybe
Mhm.
they're not like
Yeah,
top.
don't they have Reddick now too? Don't they have Reddick?
No, he's on. I think isn't he on the Eagles? No, wait, maybe he is on.
I feel like he's on the Panthers. I
But
think.
but the point is they have these rotational guys that come in
Oh, for sure.
that are more than serviceable and really it's pretty impressive.
Agreed.
It really is.
Reddick is on the Eagles. My bad.
Oh, okay. Okay. He was there last year. Then I think on some.
Yeah. But so when I look back at this game, it was more of the same in my opinion. We saw Russell Wilson not making quick, decisive decisions, throwing balls late, throwing balls in bad spots. And what I mean by that is, the one thing that I'm just gonna be blunt. I was firmly in this category when we first signed Russell Wilson. There was two things that I fully expected us to be better at this year as the Denver Broncos. One was accurate deep balls. One thing that Russell Wilson was known for was throwing accurately and deep down the field. And this year he seems to have just forgotten how to do that. Yeah, he just like, I don't know how to do that anymore. I'm not in Seattle. I guess it's a Seattle thing.
Maybe it was the attitude of the wind. Maybe it was one of those.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But either way, he's just no longer accurate throwing a deep ball, and that's a huge problem because that was one of his big selling points was he can throw the rainbow throws, and he was pretty dead accurate when he was throwing them. So that was one, and then the other one was I expected better throws leading receivers.
Yeah,
and because that was a big issue with Drew Lock, where Drew Lock was doing a lot of the same things we're seeing from Russell Wilson, where he was throwing behind receivers. So they'd be running a crossing route, and rather than leading the receiver so that they can kind of catch it in stride, Drew Lock was throwing behind the receiver. So they'd have to like slow down to try to catch the ball. And the one thing that we all expected with a veteran quarterback was that nonsense would just stop because a veteran quarterback should know how to lead a receiver, right? Wrong.
Nope.
Because Russell Wilson's not doing that. And so sadly, that's a problem.
there he is.
Gentlemen, and all those here, my apologies. You know that I'm normally not late, but sometimes work does interfere with fun.
You were hanging out with Tito, weren't you? Because he's not in here either.
Well, then I'm not late then because if Tito's not here.
This is just to be on the record, Tito. Just calling it out, okay?
Yes, they haven't seen him in the chat.
Yeah.
If Tito comes in late, I'll say, Tito, you're late.
There you go.
And then half of your channel is going to say, and yeah, you were too.
Right.
I don't care.
Hey, look, it's Steve the Pirate.
So,
there he is.
And references in full circle.
There you go.
There we go.
Oh no, I missed it. What'd you say, shipmate?
Who you talking to?
You said something about a pirate, and I was talking over something. I was like,
we made a reference earlier where they said, "Where's the pirate?" And then Alex said, "Steve the pirate? No, he's not on the show."
Steve the pirate. Which one is Steve?
Derby.
So, so this is actually an interesting one, and I do want to take this. And guys, any Broncos questions? I really want to hear them. Simply because
look at
I need something to distract from the fact that I know my team is going to be absolutely awful.
So.
Oh, well, yeah, we know that's.
It's not a good schedule coming up. Yeah. Ooh,
Ravens, Chiefs, Cardinals, Rams.
I think they only can get one, honestly.
Chiefs, Cardinals.
I'd say the Rams.
Rams is if Stafford doesn't play.
Yeah, no. But the Ravens.
Here's what my problem is.
Here's what my problem is.
I don't think. I think it's more than possible we lose out, and the reason is what would normally have been the case is the defense was still holding on to hope that our veteran quarterback in Russell Wilson would remember how to play football. And I think they're now at a point where they realize that that's likely not happening. And we saw a lot of what happened in this past game where there wasn't the same sense of urgency. They didn't have the same speed to the ball. They didn't have the same drive, that extra oomph that we've had every other game up to this point. Gone.
Well, if you don't have no speed in your balls, that sounds like a personal problem. So
I agree.
No marbles.
Marbles. You have no marbles.
You need your no marbles.
Marbles? Huevos?
Marbles. I had to. I'm late. I got to get him in as much as possible. Okay.
That's what she said.
Exactly. Oh, and a zinger from the coach.
Yes, sir.
That was top rope. Yeah. That was top rope. Nice.
Macho Man Savage, baby. Yes, indeed.
I think
BZ
asked for
Edward, it is what it is.
They can have the number 1 pick in the draft, and you know who gets the first rounder? Seattle.
Can you imagine a world where they not only hit on the draft this past year, but get the best quarterback in the draft next year by trading Russell Wilson?
Make the playoffs.
Right. Make the playoffs. Make the playoffs. The Broncos don't, and then they turn around and get the number 1 quarterback in all of football, and probably C.J. Stroud. I'm guessing, and as their future franchise quarterback.
So if that happens prior to the 2023 season start, a statue of Pete Carroll needs to be put in front of the stadium with lights and everything, because at the end of the day, doing what they've done to end up bolstering their franchise, if they're able to go in that direction, is just incredible as a franchise to put yourself in that situation, because what they did this year is exactly what I've been saying the Broncos need to have done or should have done the last several years, which is you got to stop drafting these fantastic positional players or skill position guys, and you have to bolster the trenches, the offensive line and the defensive line, because then when you bring in a quarterback, they're going to be able to stand up and they're going to be able to throw the ball, see the field, and not get knocked over. And you can choose what you want to do. Do you want to run or do you want to pass? But you can't do that unless you have a solid offensive line that's capable of doing one or the other or both. And what Seattle has done is they've drafted to fit their mold at the offensive line position with Abrams and Cross at the left tackle and right tackle. Yeah.
I just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, it's and this is actually one of the things where I disagree with some of Broncos country when they're saying George Payton should be beyond reproach. You should not be criticizing Payton. This is not a Payton issue because so many of you fans wanted Russell Wilson. I'm on record saying I wanted Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson.
You are on record. I will back
I don't know how many times I have to say it.
And I think Alex and I said it on this show is that we were concerned whether or not that was the whole play in the first place, why they got Hackett, right? Mm-hmm. We've been on that. I'm waiting for that story to break out. I'm be like,
no.
Especially if they fire Hackett. Let's say hypothetically fire Hackett after this year and say that we didn't really. He was only here for the express interest of getting Aaron.
Yeah,
and
if Aaron, know that guy, he wasn't our friend.
Right. So that'll be interesting to say that they're gonna hire another coach because to kind of work with Russell better because Hackett was never their first choice, or they were first choice only with the caveat to get Aaron. If they didn't get Aaron, then it was kind of like a placeholder type of deal. But
right, but the problem, this is ultimately the issue that we have, which is where does the balance of the blame and at the end of the day, as fans, as fanalists, as everyone who kind of is really invested in your team.
I like that.
I do too. I was thinking the same thing, Cal. I like that.
Hey, that's my word. I've said it before.
No.
Copyright goes to RichiRichEh.
Right. We will give you credit for that one.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, when we're really digging deeper into these things, you need to do a proper assessment. And in order to do a proper assessment, you have to go back and watch the All-22. You have to go back and watch even the game film if you don't have access to the All-22. And you need to start looking at where guys were and if certain positions and certain plays and whatnot had open receivers. And sadly, and this is what I think what the real issue is going to be when you actually go back and look at the Denver so far, the 2022 season, is Russell Wilson missed more wide open receivers than the fans that are clamoring to fire Hackett care to ever admit. And that's a problem. You cannot have a veteran quarterback who's supposedly this elite quarterback in the league. You cannot have someone miss that many wide open receivers, period.
Yeah. I definitely agree. You know, it's like he almost Russell has a complex. Like something happened. He had a nightmare.
He's Mr. Unlimited.
Oh, really?
You never seen that video?
I have. That's the bad thing. I have. I lost a few moments of my life after seeing it.
Also, I mean, nobody went to his birthday party, man. Like,
well, I saw a tweet just now that said that half of this team showed up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's rough.
He's Bo Callahan, you know.
Yeah.
That one I saw. Bo Callahan.
And they're both from Wisconsin. So,
hey, there you go.
Coincidence? I think
not. Yeah. There you go.
I was going to say,
and they were trading with Seattle.
Right.
Line it up. Line it up.
This movie is from the future.
It is.
Right.
The short answer is yes.
In order for them not to get like, was it people go like Wilson going after them for slander, libel, you're the lawyer, dude. What the hell am I talking about? In order for them defamation. Thank you. That's why we got a friggin' lawyer on the panel. But in order for them not to go after them for defamation, they made Bo Callahan white. It can't be you, Russ. That dude's white, and his name is Bo. Okay, Bo. It ain't you. Snicker. Yeah, it was.
Well, to be fair, we have a lawyer on the panel because we are fearing of getting sued by the content that we push out with you on the show, Cap. That's really why we have the lawyer. Secondary to correct issues.
General counsel of the show.
There you go. We need representation in case the FCC comes after us for anything.
Let me ask
you. Get the blurb. Where's the blurb? Blur it.
There you go.
Last time. And he zings me. He gets me off the show. I've only been on here for what, 11 minutes?
We have that power.
Shame.
We had a bit of a technical glitch.
Technical glitch down there.
See, and that's why we need a lawyer. See.
So the other question I have is, what do you think Purcell? What do you think Wilson said to Purcell? What do you think Purcell said to Wilson?
That's a great question.
Well, I can tell you exactly what Wilson said to Purcell. He was like, because literally that was the look on his face.
I imagine he's like, "Come on, Mike, let's ride." He's like, "Stop saying that." And he goes, "Let's ride."
Not the Michael Jackson version. Let's ride. Oh man!
Well, I actually think it was probably a little bit
more vulgar
closer to what he said at the podium than what I think a lot of people think. Mike Purcell likely used multiple four-letter words, which Russ only edited. He only edited part of them out, so I'm pretty sure that Purcell was pretty heated, and he was. I think he was effectively saying, basically, do your damn job. Except I think he used more colorful language than even that.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. And DZ, with regards to the Broncos and our wide receivers, the short answer is yes. I do very much think that we'd be in the same position for two reasons. One, actually, sorry. I think we would be doing better if Tim Patrick wasn't hurt. Because Tim Patrick,
friend of the show.
As much as everyone,
yes, definitely friend of the show.
Like Tim Patrick is that darn good. He is super consistent. Captain knows from every time he plays the Raiders, he goes off.
He gets at least 120 and a touch.
Yeah, like he goes off on the Raiders. Like it's like a thing for him. I don't like it's just, he just kind of turns it up and says, "Watch me go."
Mhm.
and he is an extremely consistent receiver. He's tall. He's like 6'3", 6'4".
6'4" in the media guide.
And he's tall. He's kind of bigger too. He's like 215-ish or so. So he's got some good size and some good speed for his height to go along with it. He's not quite as shifty as Courtland Sutton. He's not quite as polished yet as a route runner as Courtland Sutton, but Tim Patrick almost never drops the ball.
I was going to say Courtland Sutton lets you down when you really need that catch. He's going to drop it.
And Tim Patrick doesn't.
I feel like a clown that I invested pretty heavily, not heavily, but invested in Courtland Sutton in fantasy. Thinking
I did too, and he's actually one of my more
similar to drafting Kyle Pitts in the 3rd round.
Well, yeah. Well, I drafted Sutton as well, along with Mike Williams, and Sutton's been more consistent than Mike because Mike's been hurt. So that's where my fantasy life is going right now.
Well, remember, ability is availability. So in that case, you actually got more points out of him.
I did. You're right.
Right.
You're right.
And just to finish off on DZ's comment there, because I really do appreciate the questions and whatnot here, is Jerry Jeudy is more of a slot. And while he does typically get open.
He just called Jerry Jeudy a slut. And you're saying that I'm
and
not?
he really emphasized the Judy, it was doubly offensive.
That is anti-Semitic.
Whoa! You gonna get us banned?
I want new representation. That's all I gotta say. That's nonsense.
I'll draft
that's nonsense right there. That's all I got to say.
Levy. I can say it when it's anti-Semitic or not. Okay, for sure.
But so Jerry, how's that?
There you go.
Jerry is a good slot receiver.
Okay,
is that clear enough for you? Did my Canadian accent not come through enough? There you go.
Yeah,
I heard it
there
that
you
time.
go.
I'm
There
not
you
glad
go.
we got that sorted.
Sorry.
No, I don't apologize for speaking properly because you can't understand.
Hoser.
Kick off day.
So yeah, I'm the non-polite Canadian, like the only one here. So when you look at Jerry, he runs good routes and he's typically sharp. But the problem is that Russell Wilson does not throw to the middle of the field. He just doesn't. Russell Wilson throws left boundary, right boundary, and he goes 20 yards plus. Anything in that kind of middle bit there, he generally doesn't throw to. The only exception to that now, and this is where it actually is quite a bit different, at least somewhat different from when he was with Seattle, is because the Denver Broncos actually have good tight ends who can catch the ball and are tall. He will throw to them on occasion on seam routes and things like that.
Every now and again, but it's
right.
It's
not often, and it's not every
3 times.
Right.
Saubert's gone.
Jeez. The Sauber train is more left the station is gone now.
I don't know.
Well, I think what's happening right now is the offensive coordinator is actually trying to push Dulcich to be the Saubert replacement.
He is good.
He drafted him high, so I mean, yeah.
So, and I think it's just a matter of trying to basically showcase. Actually, to be quite honest, if you want my true honest opinion on it, he's trying to show that Dulcich is the guy and that he can actually draft, and he is in fact a good GM because Dulcich is a good player. And that's in large part because he also made the Russell Wilson trade, which is not looking very good right now.
Yeah.
Did Saubert get injured? And am I missing something?
No, Saubert is healthy and he's still playing quite well. Anytime he typically gets thrown the ball, he normally catches it. And he's still a great blocking tight end. It's just the offensive coordinator, and I think in my opinion, is that at the behest of the at the GM, is forcing it to Dulcich over Saubert because they drafted Dulcich and they want to prove that it was a good draft pick.
I do want to come to this question here by Riker, Will, which I brought up last week. And do we think Russell Wilson will throw more touchdowns in bathrooms? And I believe he has 12 bathrooms in his house.
He has 12 bathrooms in his house. He is sitting at a firm 8 touchdowns on the season.
That guy made another TikTok this
know.
week. I bet he didn't think he'd be in week 12.
More bowel movements than more BMs than TDs, right?
He had a bathroom
Yeah.
for every teammate that showed up to his party.
With bathrooms to spare.
Yeah.
That was a selling point for the invite. It's like,
He's like, you guys
I
can all have your
promise
own
you,
bathroom.
you have your own bathroom. You're your own crapper if you come to the house.
We'll call this your safe space.
Not the safe space.
I don't know, man. I don't know if he'll get the.
Hey, let's look at the odds. Is that an odds maker on FanDuel? Like, can we look that
Someone
up?
look this up. I need the odds.
What's the odds on
We
Russell?
might have a new segment, Inside Beats here.
I was going to say, I can go when I go to Vegas this weekend, and I will ask if they can make that like one of those.
I'm going to take the under on that.
I am too.
What do you call it? Bets? One of those side bet type things.
Oh yeah.
A weird bet or a
you'll have to ask about that one.
Bet.
A what?
You'll have to ask about that one. They won't
No,
have that one
I'm
posted.
talking to him. What type
I
of
said
bet?
a captain's bet.
Well, no, not a. Remember in the Super Bowl, there's the score, and there's the this, then there's the that, then there's the extraneous.
There was like, wasn't it Mark Cuban made like $2 million by betting the Seahawks Broncos or one of them that it would start with like a safety.
There we go. I thought we cooked at the same time.
That's great. I might need to lock that in.
Yeah, I did. Look, let me get on my app right now. Go ahead and continue the podcast. I'll be right back.
Wait 1 second here. Let me.
It appears that at least 3/4 of the hosts here are. That was not me.
Yeah, me neither. I think he did it.
That was FanDuel.
That was him. Did it? He did
it. They finally caught up to his account.
That's what.
Shut him down. That guy owes us money.
I have a funny feeling that Captain just tried to do something on his phone that you're not allowed to do, and he just got cut off.
Stay off that dark web.
No. Why is my mouse moving?
Okay, I got it. I got it.
What you click on that phone? What could you click on that phone?
I did not hit the red button at the top right. Okay, I want everybody to know that I did not hit the button at the top right. Kind of like in Apollo 13. And did we have any movie references yet?
Oh yeah, quite a bit already.
We've had a few already.
Yeah, already.
Remember in Apollo 13, the guy says, "Don't push this button because,"
and then he rips it off. And yeah,
just to make sure, because I was getting a little woozy, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't, disconnect the lem from the whatever, So that was the thing. I did not hit the top button. Okay,
fair enough.
Be known.
Fair enough.
Good job.
Captain, I made a comment on your show. It got some good laughs from the audience, but I was only partially joking.
Prop bets. There you go. Thank you.
There you go.
I am pretty sure that Josh Jacobs is still running right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Forrest Gump run through the tunnel.
Yeah.
Well, he did go to Alabama.
That was the only thing that didn't do. In fact, it was almost at the anniversary of the Bow game, right? It was like 1 or 2 days away. It was almost on. By the way, I bought a pin from that. It cost me a pretty penny. I saw it on eBay, and I was like, oh, I want to get that. So they said the only thing he didn't do was go through the tunnel. Now, granted, I was in the Kingdom, but that would have been the only thing that he needed to do to clinch that performance, was just run through the tunnel and then have some linebacker with 55 get trounced by him. But that was the only thing that was missing out of that game.
Good call, Avatar. I was thinking the same thing. The Groot scene in Guardians. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Don't push that. No, not that one. I am Groot. No, not that one. I am Groot.
I am Groot. There you go.
But Captain, before you joined us this evening, Coach and I were both made almost uniform comments just at the fact that that last run that Jacobs made to win was within an upper tier of runs in the NFL that will likely make highlight reels for generations to come, in my opinion. It really was that good.
We might be biased, but what's better, a walk-off run or a walk-off home run?
Walk-off run, because you actually have to beat other men in order to get into the end zone.
I agree.
So I'm sorry, it's the run and I even say that the run is more impressive than a pass to walk off, because because in order to do that, you literally have to he pushed.
Has to be perfect execution. Has to be perfect execution. Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Perfect execution. Our defense totally just messed up.
Oh yeah, just
although I will say it's a pretty dope sports moment when someone just yaks a home run and the whole crowd knows from contact that
that is over. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's pretty sweet too.
A grand slam walk off, that's epic. That's rare. I've seen one of those in my lifetime. But yeah, I definitely agree that the amount of effort it takes to get a walk off run is way more of a feat than it is a walk off homer.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, and you're Canadian, so that he has to answer this. What didn't Joe Carter walk off with a grand slam? It was a walk off slam, wasn't it?
I was there.
Nice.
There you go. See that? Yeah. So not only was it a walk off home run, it was a walk off grand slam, and I'm sure that there were people coming on the field. So he had to go around and through the people as well. So that was somewhat similar to maybe Mazeroski's or Hank Aaron's for 715, because I know he had to run through people on that one, plus the two guys who were chasing him.
I was there for that. I was sick.
Joe Carter, Roberto Alomar are two Blue Jays in Toronto that are kind of
Batista, man.
No, Batista is up there, but at the end of the day, the World Series winning team, just there, it's at a different level.
Was that the last one?
They win again, but they didn't win. Right?
They win again. They never won after that. They won back-to-back World Series, if not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because I actually have the cards and some other memorabilia. Actually, I also have so in Toronto, just some fun facts. They released both World Series when they won. They printed it on blue newsprint when they won, and I have both copies from both years on the blue newsprint of the Blue Jays winning, which is I'm the only one that I know that even has it still.
Nice.
So I do wonder how much it's actually worth now, but
we need to look that up.
Yeah, I might actually need to look that one up, because they only did that in Toronto, and so it would be within some rare memorabilia. I think
that's definitely rare air. It has to be.
No, and I was going to say, make sure you keep on to that. It might be worth a loonie or two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
or a toonie or two,
or a toonie.
Yeah. Don't get me going on Canadian currency. It's ridiculous. I'll take an American greenback any day. It's actually worth something. But I'm going to throw over to you real quick, Captain. Aside from Jacobs, obviously, who was, basically otherworldly in that game. Yeah. What other elements of the Raiders game do you want to talk about?
Well, I want to, and I thank you for that again. I'm sorry I'm late, but that's why I wanted to get in as much zing as I could when I came in. I'm still behind, by the way. I don't know if anybody saw the article about, and I can't remember which site did it, but Jacobs gave credit to one fan in particular who was he was a tool. I mean, and that's the nice way to say it. I'm going to say he was a tool. He was a tool. And he had signs, and he was like, your Super Bowl is this week, and you can do it. 3-8 is within your sights. Yada yada yada. The reason why that article is memorable is because that effing a-hole, and again, I'm cleaning it up for the crowd so you don't get any zings on your thing. That effing a-hole was directly across from me on the other side of the Raiders tunnel area that entered the field. And I was like, wow, this dude is truly truly a piece of fecal matter that is flamed and in a plastic, paper bag. The paper bag you have to stop on at the thing, right? So yeah, and I want to give credit to where credit is due. It was like there was so many. I don't want to say so many. There were a lot of nice fans. I'm going to say that there were a lot of nice fans out in Seattle, but the a-hole, along with, and I'll call him Mr. Grumble F and his wife, that was really pissed.
His wife.
And his wife. So Mrs. Grumble F, Mr. and Mrs. Grumble F, that were very pissy to me being at the front of the stadium when I'm on row 4, aisle seat. There is no row 3, 2, or 1. So I have the aisle and then right up into the area. And he got all pissy at me for going up to the front when there's nobody there. And he's like, do you know where you are? This ain't Oakland. This ain't Vegas. Do you know where you are? And I'm like, yeah, I am in Seattle watching a Raiders Seahawks game at Lumen Field. What can I do for you, sir? And and it was just, and I didn't yell it. I didn't scream. I didn't yell, but it was terse. And he says, you're disrespecting our stadium. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like,
real question is, did you get to bring the sword in?
No, I don't bring, no, I don't. Those are only Saturday night events. When I go out on the Saturday night, I have the whole scabbard and the sword. Sunday, no, I don't have any of that stuff with me on Sunday because I know better. Because I know that people like, in Kansas City or whatever.
We got a Bills fan breaking tables in here, man.
Yeah, we do. Bills Mafia in the building.
Bills Mafia in the building.
No, Jacob, I didn't steal his girl because his wife was so horrible looking. I would.
Wow. You should have been like, you better back up before I take your wife.
No, you're the type of guy that said, I'd like to introduce you to my wife and sister, and there's one person standing there. Yeah. It was horrible. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is there was some really awesome fans, and I got a video which I'll try to post on YouTube later, me dancing with this one gal with her husband, and I went up and dancing to Michael Jackson in the aisle, so I was feeling it and good. The awesome fans were wonderful, but the real flaming rectal hemorrhoids made the game horrible for me.
Rectal hemorrhoids, that's good.
Flaming rectal and that's mine. You can't steal that.
I won't. Trust me, that's yours.
The opposing counsel is a flaming rectal hemorrhoid.
Yeah.
Flaming rectal hemorrhoids, that's mine.
Explain that to your doctor.
Yeah,
we're getting some good
preparation quad H for that. You need quad H on that preparation quad H, which is unfortunate because I had the.
Is that because preparations A through G failed?
Nice. Great Austin Powers reference.
I feel good on the
whole. Right. Yes, I like some chocolate ass cream.
Anyway, it was wonderful 2 weeks in a row being in the stadium. And again, I wasn't going to Seattle. I don't know, or did I tell you guys last Wednesday?
It was tentative. We didn't get a definitive, but when you got off the show,
you flexed last week.
I went. I got a good flight. I got a good flight for like $780 because I used and that's 2 directs, by the way.
Oh, really?
Last minute
from Florida to Seattle direct.
2 Florida to Seattle direct both ways. Now, granted, one of them was a red eye back, which worked because then I went to work and then I popped some hours at work because they're real. No, never mind. We'll talk about work. But so that worked out for my paid time off hours. Fantastic. I stayed with my buddy and his wife, not Mr. Grumble, Grumble F. It was my friend and his wife, not Grumble F, and had great events. And the seat was with another friend of mine that said, hey, you're still looking for a ticket. I got one for you. And, so that was you could not have had a better weekend. 2 weekends in a row, seeing the Raiders in an overtime match just come through.
2 walk-offs.
when you needed it. And it didn't. I tell you what, when the first pass of the day is an interception, followed by the 12th, followed by the 12th man on the field, which wasn't called by anybody.
I saw that.
I didn't know that happened. I mean, because it was the opposite side. No, and they didn't mention anything, and that's not my dog.
Well, that is why they call it the 12th man.
Yeah,
right. You get an extra man to run on the field whenever you feel like it. Yeah, that's what it is.
That's house rules.
But,
yeah, there you go.
But coming back from that and watching Jacobs just devour that defense, and it's because they were keying on Devontae, and that opened everything up. And I will give a lot of due credit to Derek Carr, who came back after the putrid type of performance. The one interception was right off of Moreau's hand. That's not on Carr. Okay. The first pass was kind of like a misread. That's on half of him, half Carr, half Adams on the very first play. But the thing that I love about is that Derek Carr audibled out of whatever that play was at the last thing, because they were on Adams. And then he gave it to Jacobs, and 86 yards later, W, baby. So great play. And I'm going to say that the defensive line played very well, to include guys by the name of Billings, to include guys by the name of Vickers, to include guys by the name of, I'm not sure what it. Oh, that's right, Tillery.
Tillery didn't do a damn thing in that game. He hasn't recorded a stat for you in 2 weeks. Cut it out.
He is doing the job. He is doing the job that they want for him. He is taking up space and letting the other people do their job.
Cap.
Matt Crosby and Chandler Jones.
I can suit you up, and you can take up space. Let's cut the crap. Let's just cut the market here. He's not doing anything for y'all.
They can pay me the same thing. I'll
take a double team on. If you won't pay me a league minimum, I'll take a double team on. Why not?
He is doing the job that has been mandated by the defensive coordinator, and he is doing it well. I'm giving him props for doing their job. Just like Belichick said, just do your job.
Next time is a storm in Florida and you see a trash can rolling down the street, just write Tillery on it and keep it moving. That's all.
Okay, if we're Coach, the one thing, we'll talk about your right tackle this week as well.
What's that?
The one thing you have to remember, guys, is that sometimes certain players are not motivated by coaches that are on their original team. And
I watched him for the last 2 weeks. I know I expressly watched him in snaps, and he's doing the same thing he did for us that he's doing for them, and that's nothing.
Sure, but so then on the flip side of that,
trash is another man's treasure.
Or another man's trash of your trash. Like, it's now stinky trash as opposed to when you sit trash out for 5 days in the sun. It's stinkier than what you had when you had it.
What happens if you needed Tillery to do more, and the Raiders don't?
But yet again, he's just some guy. He's just a JAG, just another guy.
Dude,
all he's doing is taking up space. Anybody in the league can do that.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Like, if he is better than what the Raiders had as a kind of take on a block or two and just not give up ground.
Oh, he's doing that too. He's giving up ground too, especially in the run game.
Sure.
But I don't know about that, because they didn't do a lot of running on the Raiders.
You're right. I'm sorry, because he wasn't in on the rundowns. He was only in on pass downs, and he was doing nothing in the pass game either. You're right. He wasn't. Their Billings and Nichols were in on rundowns. They were your run DTs. He was the rush DT, and he didn't do anything in the pass game either. He hadn't even recorded a tackle. That's how bad it is. He hadn't even recorded a tackle in 2 games.
I'm not saying he's going to be getting ready for a gold jacket next week, Coach. I'm saying he's doing his job. And considering that we traded away Big Hank for a draft pick, we needed somebody to do that job, and he came in and is doing it.
I'll take Big Hank all day over Tillery. That's my opinion.
Big Hank wasn't going to be there next year, so they got a draft pick for somebody.
Oh, it's a smart move. Smart move. Get capital for somebody you're going to lose anyway. But yeah, Tillery again. He's going to be on somebody's practice squad next year. And that's probably it.
And that might be true, but at the end of the day, if you're going to trade a guy away for a draft pick that you weren't going to re-sign and bring back the next year, and then bring in a guy that's capable, maybe not great, but capable of fulfilling that role, and you give nothing away for him, you have netted out a positive and brought in a guy that can at least get you through the remainder of the season and then move on from him, right?
Agree, SoCal. I'll definitely take Fiocco all day over Tillery. I'm glad they cut Tillery in lieu of Fiocco getting the roster spot. I agree with that completely.
I'm just saying, I'm not in the Jerry Tillery fan club, but I give people credit for doing what they're supposed to do. And in that game plan, he's doing what he's supposed to do. Okay. I will also say that, Mad Max was a terror. He almost single-handedly was the reason why, the sack and then the errant pass that Geno Smith, who by the way is 0-2 against the Raiders, if not 0-3, I'd have to check to see if he lost to another game, because that's the trivia question. Who was the quarterback that took over and stopped the streak when Manning was kicked to the curb in New York? And the answer is Geno Smith, and the game was against the Raiders. So that's unfortunate, but that is the answer to the trivia question. But he's 0-2, and he had some good, a decent game, but it was the Raiders playing defense when they needed to play defense. Not great they got 34 points scored on them. But when they needed to make the plays, they made the plays. When the offense needed to make the play, they did. Give it to Jacobs, 303 yards, which was more than 6 teams had offensively last Sunday. So obviously,
fair enough,
the offensive player of the week. So and it was great seeing it personally. I will just end on that. I know, long-winded.
Fair enough. Now we're gonna tie this in and flip our commentator on this, and we're gonna move on to week 13. Coach, over to you for the marquee matchup for this podcast, which is the divisional matchup between the Chargers and the Raiders. Looking for your take and your feedback in terms of what you think your Chargers need to do to, at the very least, to somehow stop Jacobs.
Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing. There's rumors, although I'm not buying the rumors that he may or may not play because he's not going to practice it all this week because that calf, he re-aggravated the calf strain he's had for 2 weeks. So if he's not 100%, even if he does play, that bodes well for us in regards to them running the ball. But yeah, I definitely am concerned if he's going to be on the same tear that he's been on for the last 2 or 3 weeks for sure. That's going to be a problem for us. And of course, Devontae Adams, despite the fact that we did beat them the first week, he had himself a game against us in our secondary the first week. So that's a concern. But what I will say is that not having Hunter Renfrow or Waller is one thing that's a benefit to us, because that will allow us to focus more attention and give more resources to Adams in the pass game. So if we can load up on the box and limit Adams' production, then from an offensive perspective, for our defense, I think that bodes well for us to getting staying on schedule and not getting behind in any facet of the game, especially since we have these slow starts. But overall, those are probably the biggest keys to the game for us, is just to limit the run. Giving up a historic number of yards per carry for this defense is not good, and I think Brandon Staley needs to own that and do something about that, or something. I'm not even gonna say you need to be fired or anything like that, but being a defensive coach, this is something that I am very, I guess you can say, bullish about, is the fact that if you have a niche as a head coach, you should be able to be dominant on that side. And let's take a page out of Robert Saleh's book here. Robert Saleh is guiding his players in the first 2 years of him being there, and the defense is playing lights out right now. He's completely flipped from year 1 to year 2. And that's what needed to happen with the Chargers, and it's not happening. You would argue that we're worse in run defense than we were last year. We were 29th last year. Now we're 32nd. So you can't get worse when you get better players, is my issue.
You can be relegated to the AFL or whatever, so you can go to like 33, 34, 35.
Yeah, true.
If only you would have kept Tillery.
Yeah, right. That was going to help. Yeah, exactly. He's part of the reason why we're giving him 5 yards of carry. So yeah, dude, the numbers started to creep down now, but we already got too much. I guess you can say capital in how much people have rushed against us already. So we'll see in that regard. I think I like our front better now than I did in the beginning of the season because of who they were playing in rotation. Losing Austin Johnson was big, but I think that having Fiocco versus Tillery, again, taking those snaps away from Tillery and giving it to him in a run game, I think that's a big fat bonus for us because he's been phenomenal in run defense. Gaziano has been helpful. Losing Covington and losing Otito is a big blow too. But the kid Tyler Davidson has been filling in. Sebastian Joseph Day is still playing well. I just think that it's one of those situations where the league is being ran right now. Is that anytime you get out of base personnel, 21, 22 personnel, when you go through receivers, teams tend to overcommit from a perspective of putting nickel or dime packages on the field to cover those receivers, right? So that to me tells you that from a schematical standpoint, you have to have absolute perfect run fits and scheme fits to combat runs if they do run the ball with three receivers, or you have to have studs in the middle. Like you have the guys that can take up double teams and allow linebackers to float through the gaps and make plays in the backfield. If you don't have that, that's where people struggle in the run game, is when they go those wider personnels, and especially when they spread you out, when they go stacks, 4 receivers, 1 running back, shotgun inside zones, outside zones, traps, and things of that nature. It can be problematic when you can get a double team, a kick out block, and automatically you're at the second level. So there's your 3 to 4 yards, and if he breaks the tackle like Jacobs is accustomed to doing, he's at 5 to 6 yards of carry. So those particular analytical things is what you have to be wary of when you don't have Aaron Donald. Because look at what Aaron Donald did last week against the Chiefs. He just completely and utterly wrecked shop in the middle, pass and run, and it made it very hard for Pacheco to get anywhere until he got hurt, obviously. But so outside of having something like that, you got to be perfect in your schemes at all times, and I think Brandon Studley is lacking in that. So that's really part of the reason why our run defense is so porous. But getting back to the overall game. I don't think Mike Williams is going to play. He didn't practice today. He hadn't practiced since he re-aggravated his ankle 2 weeks ago. So we have to lean on Josh Palmer, who's been playing well in his absence. DeAndre Carter is emerging. I like his production. He's getting more comfortable with Herbert. I think Herbert is really feeling back to him almost 100% himself now that he's over that rib injury. So I like that. I do think that there's some chinks in the armor when it comes down to the Raiders' run defense, but we refuse to run the ball. So I think that's a benefit to the Raiders that we don't lean into it and do it, at a high clip and when it's available to us. We haven't run the ball well since the Browns game. And the Browns got one of the worst run defenses in the league, and we actually utilized that and actually end up winning the game for us. So as we have a balanced offense, I really like our chances. If it gets into a back and forth passing attack, I still like our chances. Against the Raiders, I think that we are slightly bit more healthy from an offensive weapon perspective than the Raiders are. So I think overall that's going to be a positive to us. Again, we just can't beat ourselves. I think that's the biggest and most key point of all this wrapped into one. If we don't beat ourselves and make mistakes, penalties, and get into scoffs with the Raiders like we tend to do, a lot of chippiness goes on in these types of games. If we don't get into that and we just play our game, I think we'll win.
Which is why they needed to have Bill Vinovich for this game. And I don't know who actually, I think they already wasted Bill Vinovich on a game that was worthless. So, because that's Mr. Chippy, you'll learn about that at NFL Nation Live at 9:00 Eastern.
Shameless plug every week. You always slide it in there. Always slide that plug in there.
NFL Nation Live, immediately when you're done watching this wonderful show, come on over and watch it on my channel, NFL Nation Live, where we talk about the matchups. But Bill Vinovich will not be. Mr. Chippy, the referee, unfortunately, will not be at that game. I don't know who will be, but we'll talk about that. But it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a really good game because, again, the Chargers. And I'm waiting for it, Coach. Don't worry, I'll hit it before.
Your plug for the show and that slide in the comment of the Chargers name is going to come in. I already know that.
It's coming. I can't not do it. But anyway, I don't know who the ref is, but it's going to be a damn good game. It was a damn good game last year in Vegas, back and forth. Obviously, I remember the 12, 13, 14. Third down, fourth downs that old boy Pimple Face and his crew got the balls to the right people. It was only one of those first downs. Only one of them was by a penalty. It was
paper
great.
plastic.
I got that one too. But anyway, but yeah, I still expect a very good game. But this is one of those games where the Raiders got to dig down deep, and we'll see if they're finally getting into the McDaniels mode. And people have either bought in, and ones that haven't bought in, they know they're not going to be here, and they've already checked out. So they expect a little bit of lesser playing time for those that have already checked out. The ones that have bought in are going to continue to play for next year. Hopefully Jacobs will play. I think he will. But if not, I like what we got with Zeus
White.
Thank you. I was almost saying Marino, but that was Marino. I went Marino back from Bronco Land. Boy, I tell you,
no Shaw Marino.
No, yeah. I don't know where I got that from, but yeah, no Mo Reno, not Marino. Anyway, but no, Zeus White. I like the fact, and Amir Abdullah is, as long as he doesn't kick the opposition after touchdowns, and for those 15
you saw
yards,
that, right? With the judo kick out of a penalty. You saw that?
Yeah. That was on the other side of the field, but I did see it. White. That's what
pulled the AB out.
Or the necessary roughness. And Gusu Avo thrust to the up taking Tommy Lewandowski's kick to the quarterback. 15 yards, first down.
Whatever. But no, that was great. And but no, I think it's going to be a great game, Coach. And I'm going to be there to watch it personally. And I'll think of you, obviously, walking into the stadium through the game. Feel free to text.
I will. Now, I'm just going to say I'm gonna text you this time.
Yeah. And now here's the thing. And I'm not saying this because I'm ignorant, but sometimes when I'm getting in the game and my phone's not on me, I will get to them eventually. But a lot of times I'm zoning in, so I won't.
Oh, hey, buddy, we got 3.5 hours. I will text you at game time. You just get back to me by the third quarter. We're good.
Okay. But yeah, but I don't want you pissed off at me if it takes a while. It's not because I don't love you. It's because I just, zone in and, pictures and people with things with this and,
You're a celebrity, man. I get it. You're a celebrity.
The Bolt Bros are going to be there.
I'm sorry, what?
Should reach out and see if the Bolt Bros are going to be there. They tend to travel a little bit too to get to games.
Yeah, they're all in Arizona together.
Yeah.
Okay.
All with Arizona together.
I'll have to hit them up. So hopefully they will, because
that'd be kind of cool. So I want to try and get a little bit more in before Captain needs to head out and go to NFL Nation Live in a second. Shameless plug.
After this show.
So the one thing I do want Ref Guru to answer on NFL Nation Live with his background as an NFL referee is I'd love to hear his commentary on the DK Metcalf situation.
Oh, the Brad Allen 15 minutes and we can't decide what the hell we're going to do with the catch or non-catch?
Well, no, DK Metcalf went up to a ref in the last game and requested an explanation. And apparently, by and large, from what I understand, he wasn't, rude, unless maybe he was, but I don't think he was. And apparently he got upset when the ref lipped back to him and then made a comment back to the ref, and he's been fined $30,000 for it.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm actually really interested to know the NFL ref side of that. And I think anyone watching this show would be super interested to kind of know, the officiating side of an issue like that, where, a player comes up and says, what was that call? Can you explain that to me? Whatever the case may be. And there's plenty of respectful people on the football field that will come up and actually be polite about it. I have no reason to believe that Metcalf was anything other than respectful. And
I got it written.
So I'd be curious on the other side of that. I'm going to throw over to our first 3-point stance video here, Captain, just before you have to head out with Engraven Vids. Again, you missed it, Captain. Engraven Vids has been a great supporter and a wonderful friend of the MHRT network. He and I had a bit of a volley of communication today. Engraven Vids hit a fantastic milestone of 60,001 subscribers to his channel today.
Wow.
I mean, it's super, like, just, you know,
He's only got 58,100 more than I do, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's been a wonderful friend of MHRT Network, a massive Ravens content creator, and we're gonna throw over to Engraven Vids and talking about our game against the Baltimore Ravens and what they need to do to beat us. And showing up is the obvious one.
Good music or crappy music?
Hey, how's it going? I'm Engraven from Engraven Vids. Team Keep It Clean. I have a YouTube channel with a little under 60,000 subscribers where we post videos daily, mostly about the Baltimore Ravens, but we do dive into other topics. And when it comes to the NFL just as a whole. It's a family-friendly channel that is for everybody, so feel free to come through and subscribe. You can also follow on Twitter and Instagram as well. Both are Engraven Vids. Now, for this Broncos game that the Ravens have coming up, this is a big game because the Ravens, they had been winners of 4 in a row previously, but then they lost to the Jaguars in heartbreaking fashion. And shout out to the Jaguars, by the way. They took care of business and the Ravens obviously didn't. But now they're looking for a bounce-back game at home against the Denver Broncos, who have definitely been sort of underwhelming this season. I really thought going into this season that the Broncos were literally a quarterback away because they seemed like they were just so close. But we know Russell Wilson has certainly had his struggles. But what are 3 things that the Baltimore Ravens can do to keep the Broncos struggling and to sort of get their swagger back, so to speak? Well, one would be to score touchdowns. And obviously that's such an obvious, cliche, generic answer. But with these Baltimore Ravens, that has been one of their issues, has been scoring touchdowns instead of field goals. Because a lot of times they'll be moving the ball downfield and then they'll just end up coming up short and having to settle for 3 instead of getting 7. And in the long run, as we've seen, as every single NFL fan has experienced with their own team in some form or fashion, if you keep settling for field goals, then you can keep a team hanging around, especially if it's a team that may not be doing so well, but that can give them a big confidence boost, and then they can catch you slipping. So Ravens have to score touchdowns instead of field goals. Also, on defense, the pass defense, they have to be in unison, and there cannot be miscommunications. You do not want to get Russell Wilson hot. And I know it may sound weird saying Russell Wilson and hot in the same as this season goes along, but at the same time, you don't want to be that team where it's like, oh, Russ caught you slipping. Because last week they got caught slipping by Trevor Lawrence. He had maybe, I don't know if that was his best game ever, but it was certainly one of his best games ever in his short career. Another thing too, you have to get the pass rush. The pass rush has to be all over Russell Wilson, just in a major way, because you just don't want him to be able to get into a rhythm. Marcus Peters, he's been struggling this season. He is coming back from the ACL injury from last year. It doesn't seem like he's all the way back, but he is out there, so the expectations are high. But the pass rush, having a good pass rush, especially against Russell Wilson, it can go just a long way in disrupting what's been a pretty bad overall Broncos offense in the grand scheme of things this year. One last thing would be this Broncos, while their offense has struggled, their defense has been really good. But you have to be able to move the ball. I say converting on 3rd down, and not to let the play calling be so generic. Don't let the play calling be bland, and really just overall don't underestimate this team. I know this is supposed to be just 3 things, but we said about 20. But don't underestimate this Broncos team, because as we all know, it is any given Sunday. And even though they may have a lesser record than you, a worse record than you, and they may be looked at as a bad team right now, all it takes is a game here and there. All it takes is a couple plays here and there, a couple points here and there, and you can get upset. So the Ravens they cannot overlook the Broncos at all. I felt like they may have overlooked the Jaguars a bit last week, but you can't make that same mistake twice.
Yeah, that was hot. That almost made me forget to make sure that I've got the gargler chant in there. You know, so you know.
And within a minute, Captain got that in there because, of course, that's obligatory.
And
so,
here we are, gargling.
So as we are you okay?
It's a combination of a.
That was Chewbacca.
Exactly, a Chewy gargler fan. There you go.
Sure.
Hey, all righty.
I was concerned that you were not well.
I was hoping that he wasn't having a heart attack. We had to call it paramedics.
Yeah.
I'm coming, Elizabeth. This is the big one.
It's the big
I'm
one.
coming, baby. I'm coming for you, sweetheart. Make sure all the titties are ready for me, baby.
Look, this is for you, Cap.
I gotta say goodbye to my good friends, RichiRichEh, Coach.
He's still going.
And whoever
Hit
the
him
hell
with
that
it again.
is over me right now. I'm coming. Make sure them titties are ready, baby.
Is that your outro?
That's my outro. I see you.
Okay.
You big dummy. Big dummy, right? That's Take care, guys. We'll see you next week. Have a great
See you,
rest.
Cap.
See you well.
Go Chargers.
Raiders yard.
You had to wait. You had to
I
wait
did.
till he clicked it. You gave.
I did. I know. I got my timing right. I get my timing right.
All right. Takes reps. We'll get to
So Captain's got to go to. He's got another podcast right after this one. So he's.
yeah, we're not going to tell you the name of it either. So
No, that three is just too many. But so again, thank you very much for Engraving Viz for jumping in, giving his feedback. I thought it was really interesting, kind of his takes in terms of not overlooking that sort of thing. I think that's a really good point. I think that a lot of really good teams, Alex, actually, funnily enough, you made a comment about your Chiefs earlier in the podcast, potentially, not playing up to their potential. I think is a fair comment to make in the last game.
trap games, man.
Right.
They're real.
And
They are. The trap games are definitely real.
yeah, and it takes a few plays where you mess up, and all of a sudden you're done. You're at a point where you can't dig out of that hole where you've dug yourself into just because of a few mistakes and getting sloppy and not paying close enough attention and not giving the current team the due that they're deserved. And I mean, at the end of the day, they are all at the NFL level, which means they are pretty darn good at football. Even if you might be better than they are, generally speaking, they're still that darn good.
Mm-hmm.
So, you need to not overlook every, any game at any given Sunday. And I think that's an important comment. In my opinion, and I did mention this when I was, post that recording, I actually think that the Ravens really only need to do about 2 or 3 things to win this game, some of which are covered there and some of which are not. The interior of the Broncos offensive line has struggled big time this year. And in my opinion, I think that is going to be where the Ravens' success is going to come from. If they can push the interior of the Broncos offensive line, I believe it'll force Russell off of his initial kind of first few reads. And he has traditionally this season struggled mightily in rereading the field when he actually has to then kind of replant his feet and then scan again. So crazy. I think that
because that was like his whole game, I feel like, up to this point in his career,
which is part of the reason why my opinion is such where I put more blame on Russ than I do on Hackett, because there's certain things that you expect a veteran quarterback who has built a game on a certain style of play. And Russ is falling flat on the things that made him who he is.
Yeah.
And I think it's a totally fair thing for any fan or fanalist or GM to expect, to say, we expect you to be able to do the things that you were able to do before.
Well, that's the thing with
and
football,
he's just
man.
not
It's
able
such
to.
a scheme-specific sport. It's like someone could look so good on the Chargers, go to a different team, not the same guy, you know?
Oh, that's the Patriot way, ain't it?
Yeah,
It just
I
seems like
mean,
no
literally.
Patriot that really leaves there and has any success for real.
I was
Unless-
going to say this too, though, what DZ was getting at. But yeah, I mean, that you're right. I mean, literally every Patriot player that's left New England outside of Brady
and Gronk, that's it.
has
Right.
not done anything.
Right.
But yeah, I was going to say, because I saw it like probably about an hour before we started the show that Lamar like left practice, but I think it was more, it doesn't seem like a serious thing now that I've read into it. I think they had him leave practice early for treatment, so he didn't have to give questions about the tweet he sent out.
That's probably really what it was. The old tweet and delete. Yeah.
Also, I mean, Lamar Jackson's a Bronco now, so
he is.
Oh, the other Lamar.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson's on the Broncos. So.
No, the other Lamar Jackson.
Way to bury the lead, Alex. Way to bury the lead.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, but so in my opinion, the main thing is going to get pressure right up the middle, because I think that's going to throw Russ off his first spot. He struggled reading the field heavily this year. It's been a real issue for him, and that's an interesting one. The other one is going to be running the ball. The Ravens have typically fielded a good offensive line. This year, maybe not as much as other years past, but generally speaking, they have typically fielded a physical offensive line. And in my opinion, there are certain players on the defensive line of the Denver Broncos that if they were to force runs in their direction, that you will see good success against. We've also seen a few defensive schemes where they have been able to box out our defensive linemen. It's kind of weird how it works, where they get pushed slightly up the middle and then they swing the D end around to kind of push the D lineman this way, which leaves a rogue D lineman out on one tackle for the offensive side. And then everyone else is kind of contained just based on kind of that box approach. And the Ravens have typically been very good at that style of defense against the Broncos in years past. I expect to see more of the same. And if I were to project what we would likely see in this game against the Denver Broncos, we will see some of the smaller D linemen for the Broncos that are typically pass rushers probably get pushed back because the Ravens are a larger team, more physical team. And you'll likely see some runs break off as a result, because again, that's kind of what Baltimore is generally known for. And that would certainly be a major key for the Ravens to win as well. The other thing that, frankly, I think needs to take place is Lamar Jackson needs to lose weight.
Seriously?
Yeah, I do. In my opinion, what we've seen from Lamar this season is he tried something and it's failed. He came into this season bulked up. He put on 15 pounds or so. Don't get me wrong. It was all muscle. So it's not like he just got fat, but it's muscle.
I know, right?
He's still got 755 rushing yards right now.
No, but
in 11 games.
You're kind of missing what my point is, though, is what made Lamar Jackson unique and different was he was not slim, but he was thinner than some of the other quarterbacks, which gave him a quick burst, which allowed him to avoid the first hit. And I think what the challenge that he's run into now is his body for what I would argue likely is the majority of his career is not used to carrying an extra 15 pounds. And your joints, when you're playing at the NFL level against much larger, faster, and stronger men, can only take so much abuse if your body is not used to having that kind of weight carried over your body and on your joints. Yeah. And in my opinion, we are seeing Lamar Jackson. I actually mentioned this in a discussion where it's almost like Lamar Jackson has intentionally aged himself. And what I mean by that is you typically see quarterbacks over the course of time, they slow down because their athleticism just naturally, as they get older, they can't maintain the same level of quick twitch in terms of muscles and whatnot. But Lamar has almost said, no, hold my beer. I'm going to speed that process up by gaining weight. and it makes very little sense, in my opinion, for a quarterback like Lamar to do that, because you're putting yourself at greater risk. You are putting your joints in higher stress scenarios, which means you're probably more likely to get injured. Quad muscles, Alex, as you mentioned, let's just assume that was correct. Well, sure, that might be correct. If you put on an extra 15 pounds of muscle throughout your body, that means your legs are heavier, your upper body's heavier. You've put on more weight that your quads are now having to carry around and move around, and you're still trying to do a lot of the same things you were doing before. Your body can only take so much of that abuse, especially if you've gone your entire career without that kind of weight being carried.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be very, very dangerous for a top tier athlete. I also look back to some of the interviews that I've seen with Shannon Sharpe, Hall of Fame tight end for the Denver Broncos. And he's been very, very candid with the fact that he was plus or minus 1 to 2 pounds every season he was in the NFL. So when you think of that type of, I mean, I don't even call that weight fluctuation. I call that drinking an extra glass of water, effectively. But you know what I mean? When you're talking that level of discipline, your body has been completely used to that type of abuse for the entirety of your career at that weight, and therefore your mental mindset, your joint, your body, your workout routine, your diet, all of those things have remained completely consistent throughout the entirety of your career. Shannon Sharpe is in the Hall of Fame. As we stand today, the Ravens are still deciding on whether or not they want to pay Lamar Jackson.
Well, you also have to realize that, yes, it's a different position, but Shannon Sharpe also has 2 replacement hips as well. So although that weight fluctuation didn't occur much for him, he still had to have his hips replaced at 50. So he still had, the pounding and the rigorous, trauma on his body that caused him to have to get.
He played in a different era where they were allowed to do different things, and the NFL, in today's NFL at least, has made some changes to both padding and style of play to try and help. I'm not saying it's helping, but to try and help these players not end up with, double hip replacements. But points well taken. Yes, he has had 2 hip replacements. My point ultimately with a guy like Lamar Jackson, though, is we've seen certain quarterbacks and certain players attempt to do what Lamar Jackson is doing right now. Most of the time when players do what Lamar is attempting to do right now, which is mess with their physique, most of the time they tear something badly. It's just their bodies are fine-tuned machines at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree necessarily, but I also think that it was a predictable reaction to what Lamar went through last year, because everybody's been saying that the pounding of the NFL game, regardless of the fact that you're a quarterback and you're protected, he's a running quarterback, so he's more in the line of fire than most quarterbacks are of his caliber, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah, he was definitely in the line of fire way more than most quarterbacks are.
Oh, no. My point is, though, is that, like, as an example, Tom Brady has been tackled, in my opinion, by more 300-pound men than Lamar Jackson has.
Well, he has a way of a long career, obviously, too. But
I agree. No, but my point is that if Lamar Jackson is going mano a mano against a 180-pound cornerback because he's gotten past the linebacker, which he often does, then you're being tackled by a much smaller, lighter guy who is going after tripping you up as opposed to falling on top of you and putting that extra pressure and wear on your body. Whereas an immobile quarterback like a Tom Brady is more likely to get tackled by the nose tackle or D end than a guy like Lamar Jackson is. Now, your point is well taken, where when you're running quarterback, you're likely to get hit more.
Yeah, the
And I think
percentages
that's
of you getting hit more is the issue.
It's higher. And
the fact that he got hurt significantly for the first time in his career last year led into the idea that he wanted to put more poundage on so he wouldn't have to face those same adversities when he get hit. Because ultimately, with the way they run the offense, he's going to be in a lot of fire. Especially with the way the rules are nowadays. Tom Brady has a way less opportunity to get hurt with the way the rules are now than Lamar Jackson does, because Lamar Jackson literally runs the ball.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, and like he doesn't get the same protections as like someone who's known to slide and stuff like that. Like
exactly.
He's like pretty much fair game till it's absolute.
Right. Yeah, actually, he actually really gives
himself
up.
You know, look at like RG3, right? Like similar type of game style, but didn't. I mean, granted, didn't get 5 years into his career, but like didn't bulk up or prepare to take NFL hits, and it went south for him pretty quick.
Real quick. So yeah, I mean, you can understand Lamar's reasoning here. Is my point that he wanted to be able to deal with the physicality of the game and still be on the field and make himself available, especially in the last year of his deal. Like it's, if you had to do it now, you had to do it now, because I need to be available for 17 games to get my money.
Not to mention that he has like no receivers, so he's got.
That's another thing.
Offense.
So
he's running backs, really.
Hey, they're highly dependent on Lamar, exactly. So I got to be able to keep up with the physicality, the physicalness of the game. So it was a necessary evil. I guess you can put it that way. It was a necessary evil.
Sure. And I guess my last point for the
before you do Ravens, that, I put this up there for two reasons. I want to see you guys' avatar. Do you see his avatar there?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and his comment was spot on too. So
and Mr. Take Your Soul, I love that.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of the handle.
Yes,
I'm not gonna lie. But I also think that the other thing that the Ravens need to do to beat the Broncos is they need to find an answer in their secondary. And the concern that I have is this actually could be a get right game for Russ. If Russ is able to get his wide receivers open, and guys like Jalen Virgil, for example.
So you went back with Virgil Green, didn't you?
Sorry, I the name Virgil just I automatically go to Virgil Green. He was just a staple on our team for so long.
Tight end flashbacks.
and frankly, I kind of scared myself when I went there because I wasn't a huge fan of him either. But with regards to Jalen Virgil, who has been a solid player for us as an undrafted rookie. He's a guy that I could see potentially causing some damage in this game. A guy like Kendall Hinton, who is a polished route runner because he's a former quarterback, is another guy that I could see causing some damage. And I'd say Sutton could be as well, but he's been so up and down this season that he would have to kind of lose his case of the drops.
Well, and he's going to have Marlon Humphrey on him, who is very much a dog. So
yeah.
Although he's questionable, so there's a lot of questionable guys I'm looking at here.
They are.
I think Dobbins might be coming back, which could change the Ravens scheme, approach a little bit.
GA Patriot, hit me up on Twitter. I do have a few options that you guys should be finding as a backup for Moreau. And that was what the comment was. I was on Captain's show the other day, and I said that the Raiders have Foster Moreau on their team, and then their tight end room basically falls off a cliff because their number 3 guy, their number 1 guy is hurt, and their number 3 guy is hurt. So I kept on saying they need to get another tight end to complement Foster Moreau, and this is a comment based on that. And my short answer is I have a few options for you. Hit me up on Twitter. I'll give them to you in a list.
Oh, I thought we were talking about fantasy. I was like, I'm all ears, man.
Right.
I lost Kyle Pitts. Come on.
Yeah, let me know.
What you got?
I've had a revolving door tight end all season. So I can
Harold Everett.
One thing I will say,
I'm down to Austin Hooper here. That's how bad it's got.
So my comment to both of you is I actually think that this is going to be a Greg Dulcich game. I think this is going to
very much.
I think that this is where you're going to see Dulcich have a bit of a game against the Ravens because he is taller and fast, and I think that that's a recipe to really burn some of the Ravens secondary players that have struggled. And we saw him do that not against the Panthers or against the Raiders. I have to go back as the game before that one. Dulcich had a game where he went off for 70 yards and 4 catches or something like that.
Yeah.
I can see a game like that happening for him again, so long as the Ravens secondary continues to struggle.
Although they also got Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, who are both not slow.
Yeah, to say the least.
I kind of forgot about that. And then I was just thinking, damn, they did get Roquan Smith.
They did.
They did, but at the end of the day, they have not actually done last game. They were not looking good.
Yeah,
they just weren't, and that may just be a working into the system, learning the playbook, figuring out the defensive stuff. So it may take a few weeks, and because it has not been a few weeks yet, I suspect that we're going to continue to see some miscues and some challenges. Now, I think where you're going to see the real dividends of what the Ravens have obtained now at the linebacker position, that'll be next season. Not what Ravens fans were looking to see or hear, but in my opinion, that's probably where we're going to see the real dividends from their acquisitions.
Mm.
So,
and Mr. Take Your Soul, that is I'd call that a fleece move.
And
leads into what I wanted to say, because I also heavily invested in Justin Tucker, always do. Dude's the GOAT of kicking. So I really hope that this falls in line with both the Broncos and Ravens offense, and Justin Tucker gets me 20-plus points because of all the field goals he has to take.
Nice.
Come on.
So, ultimately, I do think my Broncos lose again. I just can't see us doing anything. I think the Ravens overall are just going to be more physical than the Broncos offensive line at the defensive line position, which is going to shut down the offense. And as a result, you're going to see a defense for the Broncos do a little bit what we saw against the Panthers, which is show up enough to not look awful, but not put the extra effort that we've seen the Broncos put in every year, this entire season, to say, guys, we've held every team under 17 points.
That's right.
Except for last week, right?
Well, no, but that's my point, is that at some point a defense is not going to put in effort if you're not going to actually do your job.
You got to think, though, this has to be at least one of the better chances for the Broncos to win with how Baltimore, because you have Baltimore's offense not playing overly hot right now. Denver's defense been relatively good. Also the secondary, and I don't feel like you're going to have to worry much about the Ravens, receiving core. So they're going to be able to blitz more and play the run more and Lamar more, to where I think there could be potential for this to be a close game that comes down to the last possession.
No, I think you're going to see some running towards Justin Simmons' side of the ball. I think he's going to continue to take poor angles to tackle with, we saw the Panthers and the other game prior to that. Simmons, here's the flip side of that. Simmons seems to have either a game where he's literally on fire.
Yeah. Or he's just,
or it's not good. Right. And we saw a not good game against the Panthers. So if Simmons comes out and takes proper angles towards tackling in the run game and is dialed in when it comes to the passing game, then I actually think the Broncos would then have a chance, if I'm going to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Because I think the defense is going to kind of go the way of Justin Simmons. And if Simmons continues to attempt to tackle at the angles, for example, that he did against the Panthers, I think the Broncos are in for a very long game, because I think that Lamar Jackson, kind of flipping over to what we were saying before, because he's a mobile quarterback, Simmons might be a guy that we put on Lamar Jackson. And if he takes a bad angle on Lamar Jackson, that'll be a touchdown.
Yeah.
Because Simmons is a safety, right? So,
or you get burned by Deshaun Jackson. He's out there.
He is out there.
Not Demarcus Robinson, though. No way.
No. So, anyways, last but not least, Alex, we're gonna throw over to you
This little juice
again. Another friend of the show and has been for at least the MHRT network for a very, very long time. This is Houday Baby. You may recognize him, although maybe not without his big, ginormous hat on. He was the Bengals super fan that announced the pick at the 2022 NFL draft. He has been a massive super fan for the Bengals for a very long time. You can go ahead and find him on the Twitter. He does the face paint, the massive hat. It's pretty spectacular.
Hold on. He's not the guy in that commercial where he's in the dentist's office and he like kids looking at him like, yeah, I used the wrong paint. You just see that commercial?
I've seen it, but I don't think that's him.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
That may have been him. He has been involved with the Bengals as a super fan for years now, and he had the honor of presenting the pick in this year's draft.
Which round?
I think he was there for the first round for Chase.
Oh
dang.
Okay.
So anyways, this is Houday Baby with what the Bengals need to do to beat Alex, your Kansas City Chiefs. And let's just be real. Those games have been pretty epic so far. So I expect
rematch.
I expect this one to be another big time game. Houday Baby, over to you, man.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Houday Baby, 2020 Bengals Fan of the Year, 2003 Visa Hall of Fans inductee. Just jumping on here real quick today. Just wanted to say thanks to the guys from the Wild Wild West podcast. If you want a little Bengals insight, you can hop over and check Tuesday nights, the Blind Tiger Show with me, Bengals Captain, and Bengals in Bourbon. We are usually on at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays. But my three things that the Bengals need to do to win this game and keep the streak going, make it a 4-game win streak, 3 in a row against Kansas City. Got to stop Travis Kelce, which is easier said than done. We have to keep Chris Jones from getting in the backfield. The line has stepped up, but we need to make sure that doesn't happen. And then we have to just be able to move the ball downfield. The little short screen passes aren't going to work. We have to open it up a little bit with Chase coming back. Hopefully that will help us out. We can get T involved, get Chase involved, and just air it out and then win big. That's what needs to happen. So, Houday, baby!
Dang.
Short, sweet, and to the point. I like it.
In and out.
There you go.
6.
There you go.
Bam, bam, bam. And I did let him know that I was somewhat disappointed that we didn't get the hat this time.
I was moderately pissed off that he was not wearing the hat.
I really do recommend that any fan of the show go check his whole look out. It's pretty spectacular. He also hits the gym up pretty regularly. So when you see him, he's wearing like a jersey that doesn't actually cover his bicep because it won't go over it. So it's a pretty solid look that he's got going in terms of his Bengals fandom.
Oh wow, he has a pinned tweet of his transformation. For game day. That's great. That's great.
I saw that. That's the first thing I watched.
You have to watch.
Oh yeah, it's about 30 seconds. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Would I do it? Probably not.
Definitely not. But
I
yes,
respect the grind.
Definitely respect it. Yeah.
But
let's put it this way. He was selected out of a pool of a few on the spot for the draft, as I understand it.
Nice.
Well, you wear a Doug Dimmadome hat like that or something.
Oh yeah. And well, as I said, he is literally, it's like the perfect fan to have for the Bengals because there's like 3 teams or 4 teams with orange. And when you see him in his
same chant as the Saints, so
but when you see him in his whole getup, there is no confusion as to which team he's actually rooting for.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you look and be like, I know exactly who your team is. And I think that's a huge thing. Also, another fan of the show and friend of the network is Jet Green Santa from the Jets as well. I know we have Jet Central on here a lot because, again, Jet Central has been a longtime supporter of the MHRT network. But Jet Green Santa has been a longtime supporter here as well. And he is a retired officer from New York, and he is a massive, massive Jets fan. And has put out some fantastic content for the New York Jets.
Yes, bless that man's fandom because it's not easy being a Jets fan.
No,
Big
100%.
Mike White guy. Big Mike White guy.
100%. So, Alex, I'm going to throw over to you.
Yeah.
After seeing Houday Baby and his comments, where are we at?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously pointed out the two biggest things that I think anyone needs to focus on doing and beating the Chiefs and stopping or containing Travis Kelce and Chris Jones. I mean, those are two of the better players in the league.
In the NFL.
In the NFL, yeah. I mean, so, definitely have to account for those guys. I mean, obviously, we know you prefaced it going into it. KC lost to them twice last year. First time in the regular season, second time in the AFC title game in Arrowhead. So, that this is one that KC has had circled on the calendar, since the schedule came out in May. This is what the Kingdom's calling the revenge game. And that's what players, it's kind of the vibe you're getting. Like, there's some missed beef or some past beef we got to hash out. You're frankly putting out a whole lot. It's a whole lot of bulletin board material that's making me really uncomfortable. But, that's just the way it goes. Pretty easy game to assess. Obviously, both these teams know each other. They've played each other a lot recently. And, like you said, been good games. So I don't anticipate this one not being a good, close game. The biggest thing to me last year was that KC kind of took a page out of the Chargers book and, got a lead and then just was contingent with the lead they had and didn't seem to, or tried to go for it again, but in dumb ways. I wrote a whole article on Arrowhead Addict about this, about why they lost the AFC Championship game, and it was because they did not have sustained drives moving the ball down the field. They were up decent at half, and then just kept going 3 and out, giving the Bengals offense the ball back, taking 2 minutes off the clock. And that's kind of why I think you saw them transition away from Tyreek Hill, kind of revamp the I don't know if they planned to revamp the running game, but they did through the draft. Retool the wide receiver room and force it to where the Chiefs aren't as explosive as they used to be, on paper, but have to spread the ball out, move the ball in a more consistent and
I was going to say they're more consistent.
Yeah,
that is the word. That is the word. They are more consistent.
And so, that's the one component to me that's going to make it the most interesting. I still think it's going to be a close game. It's going to come down to the end, just because, for as unathletic and just kind of goofy as he looks, Joe Burrow is a dog, and somehow just always finds a way to come back. I mean,
it's
people
tough as nails.
And it's kind of crazy. People are knocking at the beginning of the year. He had 4 picks in that first game. And
got sacked a bunch of times.
But when you look at his stats, the dude's only bad against the Steelers this year. He's thrown 6 picks against the Steelers, 2 in the rest of the NFL. So, he's been balling. Obviously, haven't had Jamar, who's supposed to come back, magical as that is. Everyone comes back for the Chiefs game.
No. Everybody comes back for the Chargers game.
Okay, yeah, tomato, I guess.
Right.
But he was a limited participant. Same with Joe Mixon, but I don't see why they wouldn't be back. So it's going to be interesting to see how dynamic their offense is with Jamar back. But they're not particularly. For Joe Mixon going off, what was that, 2-3 weeks ago? with like the 45 touchdowns, 45 fantasy points, whatever it was. You know, they're not particularly good at running the ball. You know, they kind of get behind and then have to, you know, air raid it out to some degree and score. But that's kind of how their roster is built. You know, he talked about stopping Chris Jones, but to me, they're for the offseason narrative being how much the Bengals were focusing on refixing their line. I think they just kind of like polished a turd. It's still a turd, you know, like it's still not that good. Like
Polished a turd.
They're giving up like I can't remember what their total is.
Still a lot of sacks.
They're on pace to give up over 50 sacks this year. I mean,
that's just down from 80.
Yeah,
it's down from 80.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think what Hude was saying there. What did they do the last, say, 2 games? Because, and I realize that this is nuanced, but the reason why I say that is that offensive line and defensive line, Coach, you can obviously speak to the defensive line specifically, which is when you're talking about linemen or just lines in general, you are talking about chemistry a lot of the times where, you know, you'll have one guy that might be really good at one thing and another guy who's really good at another thing. And then it's a matter of rotating those guys and figuring out where all of their strengths and weaknesses are to match them up against the most appropriate people on the opponent side of the ball. And then on the offensive side of the line, because defense is more about skill sets against the skill sets of the offensive line. Whereas on the offensive side of the ball, it's about learning the little nuances about the guy that's next to you on either side and gelling so that you don't actually need to audible things. You just kind of know. And
communication is definitely key on the offensive side of the ball.
Right. You communicate as much as you want, man, but you're not stopping Chris Jones. I don't care how much you scheme or plan for it. Dude's very much playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah.
Has 10 sacks and is arguably, if not definitively, yeah, he's got 10. Wow. And he's arguably, if not definitively, the defensive player of the year right now. And I'm going to read off these names, and you tell me if you think they'll stop Chris Jones. I'm not going to read them off, but I'm not.
We know what the line is, and yeah, they haven't done much of anything. And I've noticed some of the Spags has been doing this year, and he started it in the second half of the first Chargers game. He started moving Chris Jones inside and out, depending on what matchup suits him best. So because he lined up exclusively
to do that a little bit more now,
right?
They have a full
complement of D
line, and with Karlaftis, have at least 2 competent edge rushers to be able to do it. It used to be Chris Jones was like obviously the best pass rusher on the team. They had to put him off the edge,
right?
And I feel like that killed him at times. So I think to me that's going to be the most crucial part. And I mean, even last year, AFC title game, Chris Jones could have stopped the drive. Joe Burrow somehow like slippery snaked around him. Yeah, I think he missed him twice and extended this 4th down. You know, or extended the 3rd down into 1st down, and boom, they went down and I think got a field goal or scored. But I mean, either way, like I said, dude's playing crazy right now. You know, like Chiefs defense as a whole have 38 sacks this year. I mean, which is a pretty solid amount for not having you know, I guess
dominant edge
rusher, the crop edge guys.
Yeah.
But you know, some of the too, you go look at their stats. Like Karlaftis has pretty crazy good like pressure hurry type stats, but he just got his first solo sack this last week. So you know they've like created a lot of pressure, and a lot of different guys are getting it done. So it's that to me is the biggest, or one of the biggest keys, is that Chris Jones and the defensive line, but obviously rides for him, has to kind of be the driving force, you know, in this game on the defensive side of the ball. Because I mean, Joe Burrow, like I said, is a beast. Their wide receivers are stupid good. Like the fact that T. Higgins is a wide receiver too is kind of like ridiculous, because that dude's also a baller. He just has to be behind Jamar Chase.
Right.
So like obviously I have like the weapons. I mean, he's shown that they know how, like he knows how to use them. If you give him one-on-one with any of those guys, he's going to take the shot that he's given, and it's going to be 50% of the time he's going to get it. So to me, like they have to be able to not blitz and get pressure with just their 4 guys. And, you know, I would think that Chris Jones could produce that, and Karlaftis and Clark. But if they can't, it's gonna be tough to contain their passing attack. They're gonna have to do what teams were doing to them last year and do like bracket coverage and put someone over the top of T or Jamar. If not both, and make Tyler Boyd beat him in the slot. But even then, to me, KC in the secondary has to play physical. Like they have to be aggressive up it. Like they cannot play 10 yards off and like react to what they're doing. They gotta be able to get in their ass quick. Keep them on the line, stick them on the line, take some penalties if you have to, but like make sure you're being physical with them. Otherwise, I think to me that's going to be if they're not getting pressure. Then it's going to come down to the last drive, and
right.
At least the last two times Burrow and company have had that fall in their favor. So, those are the two biggest things to me for the KC to beat the Bengals. And then, offense, like I said, like everyone knows, they're playing well right now, but they have to not shoot themselves in the foot like they have in the last two times playing Cincinnati, and just both times been in a position to win, and just for whatever reason kind of blew it themselves. I mean, to some degree blew it themselves by not having long sustained drives. So to me, and they've been doing that this year, obviously made a point to add our focus on the run more. You got Pacheco averaging like 4.9 a carry right now, like right at 5 yards. Certainly being more efficient and explosive running the ball than Clyde Edwards-Helaire was. So, I think that they have all the recipe for success right now to do what they need to do to win. Just going to come down. I mean, they're both good teams, both know how to execute when they need to. So it's going to be a good game, but I think KC pulls this one out.
I think you're seeing an example in the Bengals of a team that has found a legit top tier quarterback in Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And he is capable of throwing just lasers.
I mean, yeah.
I mean,
and just for like how it to me, it just looks like goofy. Like you wouldn't look at that guy and be like, oh, like that dude's he's going to be up there with Mahomes and Herberts and the rest of the league, but he somehow is. So.
No, he is. But it's almost like what happened with him is in his last year in college, everything clicked.
Yeah.
And he just I understand football now. And it's almost like, do you know what I kind of equated Burrow to in his college year was, it was almost like Neo in the Matrix.
That's a good one.
Like you remember that last scene in the last part of the Matrix of where it was just like I'm stopping all the bullets.
Yeah, he's starting to believe.
Yeah. And it just everything just kind of all makes sense now. And you kind of saw that a little bit in his last year in college, and then it was, I mean, arguably one could even say that he was even more polished than a guy like Andrew Luck coming into the NFL. Because you saw what he did in his last year, and he understood NFL throws.
Yeah, I mean,
and he just understood them.
And he's got his college buddy who he already had chemistry with.
Yeah.
It's almost like as if Derek Carr entered into the draft 1 year before Devontae Adams, and then
getting drafted Devontae the year after.
And it's like, it basically it's like, they look at each other and it's like, I understand.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like I said, T. Higgins too is, I mean, just as good. He just lives in the Jamar Chase shadow, but you put him on any other team,
he's probably wide receiver one.
He's the clear wideout one. I mean,
Oh yeah.
And dude's got speed and is huge. So
right. Size and speed, right? Exactly.
I foresee this kind of. I think it's going to be one of the kind of identical scores. So what they so AFC Championship game was 34-31. Game before that was 27-24. So I think that's kind of your, that's
barometer.
Yeah,
I think you're closer to 27-24.
That's what I think. Honestly, that's what I think
bigger,
it is.
The bigger question is who has the 27 and who has the 24.
That is the question.
KC, baby.
I expected nothing less from you, but at the end of the day, I mean, you have to admit that there's a legitimate chance that it could be the other way around.
It's in Cincy,
Oh, I know.
right?
I've said that.
It's in Cincy, right? They're playing away, right?
Yeah, it's in Cincinnati, that was the 27-24. No, that was the 34-31.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in Cincinnati. So
guys, that's gonna about do it for the show today.
This is an extended cut.
We had a bit of an extended show today with. The Broncos news has just been epic on all fronts for all the wrong reasons, but nonetheless, that's why you tune into our show, because we have representation from all teams around the AFC West. With regards to all of our shows and podcasts, please click the like button down below. Leave a comment after the shows if you have any questions for us. We will do our very best to get back to you. If you'd like to have any information or if you have any interesting topics you'd like for us to discuss on the show, hit us up on Twitter. My name is RichiRichEh. That away is Coach Defense. You can find him on Twitter at Lockdown Defense. Or Locked on Defense. Lockdown Defense. Sorry.
Lockdown Defense.
Lockdown.
I literally just type in locked and it just shows up for me.
Right. Lockdown Defense. There you go.
And this is the real Alex Givens, not the fake one. And you want to go ahead and reach out to any of us on the show. We'll be happy to reach out to you. And obviously, Captain Jack Rackham, just type in Captain Jack and you'll pretty much find him pretty quick.
Salty one.
The salty pirate. And any questions you have for us, just please reach out and we'll be happy to respond to you. And until next Wednesday, guys, where the West Side is the best side, we will see you next week.